The annoying hospital beeps are causing hundreds of deaths a year around the water cooler. So there was a story that you shared from the BBC. Why don't you? I'll read the headline.
Okay.
The trendy secondhand clothing market is huge and still growing, yet still nobody is making a profit.
That's the business we're in.
Right.
This one has a lot of hair. This one has a normal amount of hair. It's Pat and Alex. This one was born in Raytown. This one lives in Raytown. They opened a store in the pandemic, and this is a show about it. Hustle and bustle, hustle and bustle, hustle and bustle. Here is the show.
Hello and welcome back to Hustle and Bustle. I'm Pat.
I'm Alex.
It is a loud and noisy day here at Gnarly Hustle, and I couldn't be more excited.
Yeah, I know. It's lots of jackhammers, lots of concrete saws and sledgehammers and dust and mess.
Messes being made.
Yeah, I love a good mess.
Yeah. So that's the big announcement. Start right off the top with the announcements is that we are having the floor be cut up to house the plumbing for a new bathroom in the garage.
Yeah.
And this is something that we've been building towards for over 2 years.
Yeah.
It's probably about 2 years ago. I couldn't even pinpoint it. It would take a lot of research in my emails.
What is time? Yeah.
When we were discovered that the main barrier between us and being able to hopefully sell alcohol in our establishment was going to be installing a bathroom to get the building up to code.
Yeah.
And then ever since then, it's been a couple of blind people, trying to cross a very busy highway.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I feel like a Roomba, and there's just one exit.
Right, a Roomba at a new house.
Got to keep bouncing off the fucking walls till I figure out where to go.
And so now we have movement, and we have the permit, and we have all the stuff that was really expensive to get in the front end, and we did a bunch of work to now be in a place to hopefully have a bathroom here in a few days or weeks. Now, the only nervousness is that the other big announcement is that we have Merch Madness coming up March 24th, Sunday, March 24th, right here at Gnarly Hustle, 11 to 3. We're going to have at least 15 vendors. Good weather permitting, we're going to have way more than that. Mm-hmm. We'll be able to put them outside as well. And, it's like a March Madness-themed vintage clothing pop-up, which is going to be badass because it's the first weekend of March Madness. We got TVs in the garage. We'll throw it on. We'll come up with a couple of cool basketball-related games for you to play. We'll sell you cool college and NBA basketball themed merch, which is what a lot of vintage is, frankly. There is a lot of college shit that's a good time of year to buy and sell, and there's a lot of basketball stuff. In summertime, people wear basketball jerseys and such. That's coming.
All good stuff, all in one place, all at one time.
So that's Merch Madness, and hopefully we'll have a second bathroom for you to use.
Yeah,
if not, hopefully we'll at least have the mess cleaned up.
That would be a big win if you could take a shit in a different place, an early hustle.
Oh, man. Everybody's first time pooping in a new toilet. So come full of poop is what we're telling you to Merch Madness. Because we can help you get rid of it.
Yeah, we can.
Hopefully. Or don't come because we don't really, it's a construction thing, and I've watched enough reality TV to know that these things don't always run on time.
Yeah.
So our reality show that no one's filming or watching would not be fun or dramatic if there wasn't a lot of anxiety between now and the 24th about what state is the garage going to be in.
Yeah. No, there would be lots of, what do you call them? The little interviews?
Oh, yeah. Confessionals.
Confessionals. Yeah.
Yeah, there'd be
you
lots
ever
of
do confessionals?
We should. We should have a room for confessionals.
That would be good.
Yeah.
You ever do them?
I guess we're sitting in it.
We should build another room
inside the room, a confessional closet.
That would actually be good content.
A confessional closet?
Yeah.
And then someone's just in there, like Keenan's just filming in the confessional closet while you're filming out here in the podcast, and then he's live reacting to it. This could be a whole thing. Mm-hmm. We'll have to get cameras in there. It's going to be wild. Well, back to the bathroom. Let's talk about the bathroom. What are your emotions? Because mine, I'll tell you mine. Because I can't help myself. It's not. I just feel like we've been telling a story to ourselves and to people that we're getting a bar, we're doing things for over 2 years now.
Yeah,
and this feels like proof or validation that we've been doing some things.
Yeah,
because a lot of people come in and ask about the bar. The people that we have told that story to have been looking for an update, and we mostly hang our heads and in shame whenever they do that.
Yeah, it's definitely I don't really feel shame so much anymore. I would say like a year into telling people we were going to have a bathroom or a bar, and there not being any significant process, I was starting to get like a little shameful of it. But now I honestly just confidently tell people like, we don't know what the fuck we're doing.
Yeah.
There will be a bar. Don't know when.
Yeah.
You know, so just fucking hang around and wait. But yeah, and there shouldn't be any. We don't know what we're doing. We're making it up as we go.
100%.
And so, that's just the cost of amateurness is time and money.
We're playing the video game of get a liquor license for the first time. And so we don't know until we win the game.
Yeah. How you're supposed to play it.
Yeah. And we're not confident that we feel good. Like we have a lot of reason to believe we're going to win the game, right? But we're both open to the possibility we don't win this game.
Yeah,
right?
There's still ways that we could lose that we just don't even know about.
Oh,
so
totally.
we can't avoid them. So
we'll let you know how it ends. Keep watching.
Yeah.
Keep watching. Merch Madness, it's going to be dope. I think the vendors are pretty well filling up. So that's exciting. And it's, like I said, it's our first big vintage kind of event here. And we've been moving in consignment a lot. We have a couple new consigners, those who thrift.
Yep.
Has just moved in. And these are a couple of Raytown young ladies who we have dealt with. They popped up here through the kind of our crummy pop-up times.
Yeah.
And kept coming and were awesome and nice and great. And they have just kept growing as like a vintage pop-up brand. And so even though we've known them, like when we started consignment, I'll be honest, I didn't think of them immediately. And it took Jackson suggesting them and then us seeing them at other pop-ups. Oh yeah, duh. Like they're still around and they're doing awesome.
Yeah.
And it's a perfect fit and I think they're great. And they have some Raytown gear in there because they're from here and they're right down the street. So they're in. And we also have Mod Vintage is in here. We have Martin City Thrifts who's been in here. Super Thrifty Bros who's been here. 742 Vintage who has moved in.
If you are a girl and you shopped at Gnarly Hustle the previous 2.5 years, you should come back because we have great women's clothing now.
Yeah, like stuff that you might actually want or buy.
Yeah.
I would say like Mod's been moving some stuff.
Both honestly yesterday both of them moved a good amount.
Yeah.
So I think they'll do well here and they'll continue to keep it stocked with heat stuff.
Well, we're going to talk about something that I think will probably dovetail more into this. So let's just jump into it. Around the water cooler. So there was a story that you shared from the BBC. Why don't you? I'll read the headline.
Okay.
The trendy secondhand clothing market is huge and still growing, yet still nobody is making a profit.
So the article mainly focused on kind of like larger corporations in the industry.
Yeah, like
ThredUp and
IPOs,
and
like people that have gone public, huge companies.
And basically, there's only one company, I can't even remember the name, that's turned a profit since they've been reselling higher end clothing or vintage, and it's just surprising because it's this immense industry that has quickly grown, I would say, the last decade, and is still quickly growing, but yet no one, at least from this article, seems to be turning a significant amount of profit and building a business that makes money from it. And it was interesting because that's the business we're in.
Right.
I was like, oh, they don't make money. Let's read on.
Let me zoom in on that. Double click.
And there were a couple things that make a lot of sense. The big takeaway I grabbed from it was just scalability. So the supply of clothing in general is massive. Like there's millions of new clothing made every probably month, and the rate at which it's like discarded is much lower than the rate at which they're making clothing.
I would love to know like the amount of, what is it, 8 million people on Earth? 8 billion?
Yeah.
How many shirts?
What?
How many shirts per 8 billion? Like, there's 8 billion people. Is there 60? Is it 2 shirts per person? Is it 200 shirts per person on Earth?
I've seen a stat.
Unknowable, but too many.
I've seen a stat on a couple different posts that have made claims that there's enough textile and clothing on Earth currently to service the next 5 generations.
Okay.
So
that's 40 billion?
Yeah, so I don't know what
Give or
that
take.
breakout of item per person is, but it's a lot. It's enough for you and your kids and your kids' kids and their kids.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's just a large supply, which if you know anything about economics, is hard to make money when there's a bountiful amount, when it's a commodity.
Right.
When you can go to anywhere and buy it and it's the same as if you go across the street. So basically what you're paying for and what you're charging customers is the curation, the and branding of whatever clothing you're purchasing, which is not scalable. You know, if I sell one beer or 1,000 beers in a day, the difference is me handing the beer to somebody and purchasing more beer. But if I sell one t-shirt or 1,000 t-shirts in a day, then I have to find almost every single one of those t-shirts if I'm curating, you know, high-end vintage or high-end used luxury. And all of those things have variable costs. One day, a t-shirt that you resell for $50, you can find it for $10, but maybe the next day you can't find it for cheaper than $25. So you never know how much your inventory is going to cost, and you never know how much time it's going to take to source it, and you also have no idea what the fuck you're going to find. You know, it's all per chance. So those are huge holes in a business model that is going to be sustainable and grow like over a long period of time.
One thing, so like there was a woman in here yesterday and she thanked us for our prices. And we're insecure now because we just talked about consignment. So like we never used to think we could sell shit for more than 20 or 30 bucks around here. So there was stuff that we knew we could get hundreds of dollars for on the internet that we sold for $25 because we just didn't think we could get more. And a lady came in, and so now we're selling it for a lot more. And so I was kind of pleasantly surprised to hear her, this week thank me for our low prices, because I'm like, shit, I'm worried our prices are high now.
Well, so this is,
you can get t-shirts for $30, $60, $80, $120.
It's all psychological. Like,
right.
This is something I think we should pay attention to. You know, previously, without any consigners, the most expensive thing you'd find in our store would be like tie-dye at $20. And then beyond that, like maybe a handful of jackets for $20, but everything was like $15 and under.
Yeah.
And so if you were to find a $30 piece when 99% of the products in that store are $20 and under, that piece is overpriced.
Right.
But if you are... You know, if you have a $30 piece in a store where the average price is $40, then all of a sudden that's value.
Right.
It's the same piece. It's just what it's surrounded by.
Sure. But the point I was driving at was that she was thanking us for our prices. And one of the things that she said was like, I can't believe what people are charging for some of these things, because they went to some other stores. I can only imagine. I won't say names, but like, some high-end stores. Mm-hmm. And I can't believe people are like, this is secondhand stuff. They got it used. Why are they charging so much? So anyways, this article has a couple of things that I'm going to read a couple quotes from it. We treat waste as if it is a free resource. Sure, you might give it away for free, but it takes a tremendous amount of effort and labor and skill to try to recommodify that thing that you gave away. Reuse is based on the quality and the condition of the individual item, which means that it requires a human touch and a human eye to assess that. Then there was another one here. You're effectively reverse single SKU fulfillment, which is incredibly difficult, incredibly expensive, and incredibly inefficient. So that just kind of like crystallized and articulated what I've been fucking thinking. You know what I mean?
And interesting enough, a lot of the companies they discussed in this article weren't necessarily resellers, but they were more fulfillment and facilitators. Mm-hmm. And so it's almost like these large, you don't see any large corporation reselling, like there is no national brand of vintage resale stores. At least I don't think. There might be.
It can't exist.
Like,
I mean, Buffalo Exchange just tried. The owner of our building is a contractor, and he got a huge job building on the Buffalo Exchange in Westport. Are they even still there?
I have no idea. Maybe. Probably.
They're the only one I could think of.
And the only national chains that you see would be thrift stores, but that's a whole different business model. And all they're doing is facilitating people. So they're not even making money from the actual finding and reselling of products. They're making money from connecting buyers and sellers and fulfilling those purchases. Mm-hmm. So like they even recognize this isn't scalable. Like to sell 100 t-shirts in a day is way different than to sell 10,000. Like to sell 10,000 t-shirts might be a year's worth of labor. Mm-hmm. Whereas like that's not the case if you're just fulfilling 10,000 orders. So anyway, it was interesting.
I thought it was wildly interesting. There's things that obviously we resonated with, and like we're going to consignment largely because we can make the same amount of money with way less time and labor into it. Mm-hmm. And there's different kinds of labor. There's different kinds of things. I'll just be honest. Yesterday, I lost half my one of our partners came in, he took an hour in the beginning, an hour at the end. And a consignor came in, he took 2 hours. Another consignor came in and made that 2 hours, 2.5 hours. So, there is a cost without question. And then while I was outside taking a break, other consignors came in while you were inside. So there is a cost to consigning that we weren't paying somewhere else. So it's not like just a complete trade-off.
But I think a lot of these will be first-time costs. Like a lot of the extra time set up and getting to know these people all will decrease as time goes on.
Sure, and we're doing it because what we're trying to do is make it more scalable. And like, you know, let's talk about some of the other people in the game. Reset, Wyco Vintage. They're two of the biggest ones that I know of in Kansas City, right? Like, there's also Arizona Trading Company, which has a store in Lawrence. There's DVA Percent.
Warehouse Thrift.
Warehouse Thrift is newer.
Yeah.
These are places, but like the ones that have been in the scene, they were there when we arrived, and we have from day one kind of looked up to them. Like, I remember when we were first starting, I would go sell clothes to Reset just to understand the market. Like, what would they pay me for this?
Yeah.
And then look on the internet and see what they resell it for. And so these are just from like, they were role models from a very, not that like we were like jerking off to their Instagrams, but in the sense that like we were literally just trying to understand how the business that already exists kind of works.
Yeah.
How does the model work? Reset has pivoted significantly. When you first went in, it was basically 90% vintage and one rack of streetwear like Bape, Supreme, those types of things. It is reverse that now. Like, when you walk in at face value, and they were large sneakers, very large wall of sneakers, and that was always a big part of their business. That still is a big part of their business, is the sneakers, but the streetwear vintage has, I would say, flipped almost as an inverse of what it used to be. Meaning, like, just like what we're doing, okay? We want to sell beer because we can order it and sell it and scale it without having to scale our time or find more talented people willing to sell their time for less than it's worth.
Yeah.
So it seems like Reset pivoted. Wyco, I've never really shopped there, but from what I understand, you can't even really get vintage on their main floor. It's like tucked upstairs, and they have a bunch of it, but they have pivoted away from like, you know, retail vintage. Their retail store is now just streetwear.
Yeah.
So that says to me, the more successful you get in our game, the more that people realize some of the shit that's in this article and pivot away from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's the cap on reselling vintage is low, unless you are in the online game and have been in it for a few years. I think
as an individual. I think as an individual, you can do incredibly well. And there are people that are making a fuck ton of profit without
the overhead of a store, selling online and curating an online brand. I think there's a lot of money to be made there. There's different, chores you have to do, posting and curating and fulfilling. But
I don't know what Keith makes at Super Thrifty, bro. I don't know what some of the people that make around the city are, but the people that are probably making the most money are online constantly, right? That is their retail store. So Monday to Thursday, that's their retail. That's how they make their income. They're also like, I don't know if other people are as active the way Jackson is on Snapchat, on group texts, on Facebook groups. If they're also selling in those places, but my hunch is that they are.
Yes.
And they're also popping up.
Physically moving.
They're physically popping up
driving
all the time
up to go buy something, driving to go sell something, driving to go pop up.
And I could see people, I would not shock me at all if there are dozens of people in Kansas City making a six-figure income that's relatively untaxed.
Yeah.
Or at least the equivalent of a six-figure income when you figure in the fact that it's untaxed. On just this, and they're their own fucking boss, and they design their own time. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So that wasn't accounted for in the article.
Yes.
But that's hard to scale.
But see, that's you're really starting to like narrow down the selection of people who can be successful in the business. Like if only 1 out of 100 people can claim success and pay for their food and bills in an industry, the industry is probably really hard to do business in.
Yeah.
It's something that you can make $0 and then the next day make 500, but then never make more than 500, like an event or a pop-up the rest of your life.
Right.
So it's real easy to go from like 0 to 500 in a day. You're like, holy shit, this is super profitable. And I did this all in one day, and I met a bunch of people, and I got all these followers. But then you realize, like, even if you do that 100 times, that cap will only incrementally rise. So I think that's why it's attractive for so many people, but then it's why so few are successful.
It's easy. The concept is easy, right? Like it's a simple model, right? It's not overly complicated, and there's a significant amount of freedom that goes to it.
Yeah.
But if you're going to scale it and really make money, then your freedom really shrinks because there's so much time.
There's a huge amount of front end work that needs to be given in.
Anyways, But the upside really to take from this is that the market is still growing, right? The market is like vintage has never been bigger than it is right now. So like the bubble, we talk about it as a bubble because it seems like it will burst, it will recede, it will go smaller. But it has never been bigger than it is now, and it still seems to be growing. And I'm not saying that was all a Taylor Swift effect, but here locally in Kansas City, it's hard to not think about Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Because she literally changed the market on Chiefs gear. She drove that up. She might have doubled it just this season.
Yeah, which was crazy because it was already
wild. But like in a quick time, the cost and the demand went up real fast.
Yeah.
Anyways,
we'll post that article. It's an interesting article.
It is an interesting article. We should, but the upside is like I don't know that. There's still money to be made in the industry. It's just how you do it.
Yes.
And we mentioned Rex Catalog. They were one of the victims of theft recently. They're changing their model from what we understand. And it's blowing our minds and we're just getting drips and drabs at a third hand, you know?
Yeah.
It's gossip. We're just gossiping. But it's just so interesting how fluid everything is. And we've been fluid. We are changing our model. You know what I mean? But there's money to be made. It's just figuring out how to do it. Right? Scott Galloway is fond of saying the money is in picks and shovels often and not in the actual gold itself.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe that's kind of what we're building here. If we can become the infrastructure for the fishermen and the market for the fishermen, like can we become Pike's Market for vintage in Kansas City instead of the best fishermen and fish salesmen?
Yeah. No, I got you. I like that way more.
Yeah.
We discussed it. Like I have a passion in running a successful business, not necessarily in vintage or fashion. I love those things, and I enjoy those being like our product, but creating the most amount of value, monetary and non, out of something is like what I want to do most. It's like if that means creating the best place for people to sell their stuff, then yeah. Then like that falls within that same Venn diagram of like what Alex wants to do.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Totally. The other thing that we really had to talk about was this article that I found. The annoying hospital beeps are causing hundreds of deaths a year. And the summary, I don't know if you clicked on this, but the summary is basically that medical workers are just so inoculated to the noises now that they miss alerts and shit that they're not supposed to miss. That there's just so much noise that there's too many alerts, so they just become, they end up like becoming, what's the word I'm looking for? Not inoculated, but they become immune to them. They can't really hear them and numb to them, and so people go without things they need.
That's a weird article.
It feels like a microcosm for all of the world.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know what it's so. Yeah, I was in a hospital like the last a month ago. My grandfather passed, and they gave us the option to like turn it all off.
The noises?
Yeah, and the screens.
Okay.
I think that was for us because like when it was on, you become hyper fixated on like his heart rate and his O2 instead of.
And so if there's an abnormality, you want to alert them.
But they've got all of those things in like their nurse station. I'm assuming they've got all of the readings from that room in there. And it's true, like when you walk past the nurse's station, it sounds like a McDonald's kitchen. Like,
right.
There's beeping and timers and all sorts of like, I wouldn't be able to keep it straight.
That's what it feels like in a hospital bed too.
Yeah.
I guess this is like a confirmation because I've been there, and you're like, God, why is that beeping? But I guess they would come and tell me if that was really that bad.
Yeah.
You end up in that little ping pong match of what you should do. Do I hit the button and get the nurse in here and say, what the fuck's going on? Or do I let it ride? Because obviously if there was an emergency, I'm in a hospital, there would be alerting it. So this is just like, holy shit, someone did get bit in the asshole by a snake in the toilet. I've always, my whole life, had an irrational fear of there being a snake in the toilet, and I just read a news story about someone getting bit in the asshole by a snake.
Yeah.
So that's terrifying.
Yeah. No doubt. It's a weird article the more I think about it. It's like, okay, hundreds is a lot. I don't want to diminish, I don't want to make small of those deaths, but like in the scheme of everyone who dies, like,
you're right, I guess.
Not a whole lot. It feels like someone had that happen to them personally,
and then just wrote a story
they needed
about
to
it.
investigate it. Yeah.
Well, maybe they just they saw something in the ether and they wrote it, because it made my mind explode, because I thought not only of the personal hospital quandary that I've figured a lot of people could relate to, if you've been in a hospital, about like, what do I do about that?
Yeah.
But also, like, I don't know. I just feel like in the news, like there's like whether it's fucking Israel, Palestine, or whether it's China and Taiwan, or whether it's Russia and Ukraine, or Trump and Biden, or any other, the drag queens, or any culture war, any of this shit. It just feels like you're constantly bombarded with a million crises, and so you just get desensitized to all of them.
Yeah.
And that seems to be a large part of the problem. Now, obviously, I'm not a pro-Trump person, and I always look for an understanding as to why so many people could be pro-Trump. And so that's where my brain went to, is like, oh, well, this kind of explains, like, if there's 91 indictments, then, that just seems like too many. I'll pretend that there's none.
Yeah.
It just seems like a phenomenon in society that, like, I don't know.
There is just absolute sensory
a sensory overload.
assault.
Yes, and I think that is happening across society, and there's probably people taking nefarious advantage of it to their own gain.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we've never been more distracted in our entire life.
Yeah.
And
I related
also,
to the nurse and the patient in the story.
I would turn the fucking beeping off. I'll be honest. I don't know how they do it. When I'm in a McDonald's, I get angered by listening to the beeping. It's something. Yeah, I couldn't be a nurse or doctor.
Yeah.
Just thinking about it all day, every day.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Like, whose imminent death do I want to ignore today?
Yeah, fuck, dude.
Yeah. And a microcosm for life, because sometimes if you're really stressed out, it's like, what thing can I just not think about?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that we all do that to some level. Anyways, that was fun. It's going good around here. We're excited that there's a giant ditch in the bathroom and a ton of concrete, and it's eventually going to lead to a toilet, and that'll eventually lead to us being able to sell alcohol, which will hopefully eventually lead to us making some money right here. So
money.
come buy some clothes in the meantime.
Do it.
See you later.
Peace.